Hello and welcome back to St. Thomas Aquinas for everyone. My name is Dave Palmer and thank you so much for watching another video as we move our way through the Summa Theologia. We're still on question number 2 and we learned about sacred doctrine. Then we got into question number 2 about the existence of God. Yesterday it was, is the existence of God self-evident? And Thomas basically said, no, we can only know kind of a murky idea of God. And so today we are going to continue on with question number 2. And Thomas here is going to ask a different question. He's going to ask whether or not the existence of God can be demonstrated. Okay, can God's existence be demonstrated? This is actually one of my favorite articles of the Summa. And I just want to point out, as we move our way through the Summa, these lessons average about 8 minutes a day. And if you can commit to 8 minutes a day, maybe 10 minutes in some cases, in probably a year, you will have studied the entire Summa, okay? So give it this calendar year. If you haven't watched the previous videos, go back and watch them. And we've only been doing this for about a week, but commit to it. And in a year, you will have studied the entire Summa, okay? So what does it mean to demonstrate that God exists? Now, here are some pictures of, demonstration. This is a cartoon one. So typically when we demonstrate something, we're showing proof. We're showing like maybe some sales numbers or something to our bosses or our colleagues at work that are showing some of the evidence for the point that you're trying to make. So typically it's something that you can see or some kind of tangible result that you're demonstrating, right? Here's another one I thought was interesting. It says 7 things you should do to demonstrate a strong work ethic. Okay, so how would you demonstrate a strong work ethic? You'd get to work on time. You'd maybe, take a brief lunch break. You'd be friendly to your coworkers, right? All these things that we can sense and use our senses to perceive about a person. So the question Thomas is asking here is, can we demonstrate God's existence through that which we can come to know through our senses, our sight and our hearing and our smell and that kind of thing? So what do you think about that? I'm going to give you Thomas's answer, and then we're going to break it up into 2 different parts, and this is actually a lot of fun. I think you're going to enjoy this. So here's what Thomas says. I answer that demonstration can be made in 2 ways. One is through the cause and is called a priori, and this is to argue from what is prior absolutely. Okay, so this is where we know the cause and then we presume what the effects will be. So here's a couple of examples for that. Here's a lady bowling. Okay, so she has just rolled the ball down the lane, and she is a cause, and the ball, in a sense, is a cause as well. We can presume and assume what the effects will be. That ball, about 2 seconds later, is either going to land in the gutter or it's going to hit the pins, and she may get a strike, but we know what's going to happen because we know the cause, and then we can presume the effect. Here's another example. Here's a man who's staring out at a beautiful sunrise, right? The sun is just coming up in the east, and so we know the cause is the sun. What can we presume to be the effects of the sunrise? Well, it's going to get brighter, it's going to get warmer, right? These are a couple of the effects that we assume. We know the cause, and so we assume what the effects are going to be. That's a priori. So then Thomas goes on and says the other is through the effect. And this is called a demonstration a posteriori. Okay, big word there. This is to argue from what is prior relatively only to us, and when an effect is better known to us than its cause, from the effect we proceed to the knowledge of the cause. And from every effect, the existence of its proper cause can be demonstrated, so long as its effects are better known to us. Okay? Because since every effect depends upon its cause, if the effect exists, the cause must pre-exist. Hence the existence of God, insofar as it is not self-evident to us, going back to last article, can be demonstrated from those of his effects which are known to us. Okay, this has very, very practical application, and this is really exciting because, again, it should change the way you see the world. Okay, so let's give a couple of examples of this. You're walking in the North Pole. You're walking somewhere where it's snowing, right? And you walk upon this. And you thought you were alone, and all of a sudden you see these tracks. This is an effect. Okay, what's the cause? Well, you can presume by the effect that somebody has been there. Somebody is walking on the snow because you see the effects of them having been there, right? Here's another one. You're walking down a winding path, right? And let's say you hear a rattle, okay? You hear a rattling noise. All of a sudden, you're aware of an effect, and you want to know what its cause is. You walk a little bit further, you lean down, and here's the cause. It's a rattlesnake, okay? And so now you have found the cause of the effect that you came to know through your ears and listening to it, right? So now the question is, okay, on a day-to-day basis, what are the effects of God? How do we demonstrate God's existence? Well, how about this one? How about a beautiful baby? Okay, every time you see a baby from now on the rest of your life, you should say, wow, this is an effect. Because we can cooperate in God in producing babies, but ultimately God creates life, right? That's an effect that leads us back to God. How about this one? If you're an animal lover, a dog lover, every time you see a dog, you can say, wow, humans can't create dogs. Those come from God, right? So dogs ultimately come from God, and so He's the cause of the amazing dog. How about the planets? I mean, isn't this amazing? The precision to which they go around the sun, and just the science behind it. And there's no way we could have created anything like this. That's an effect, and it leads us to a curiosity about what the cause is. And this is one I used in a previous video, the photosynthesis process. Again, it's teleology, but it's also an effect. And all these things should lead us to be really, really curious about where does it come from? Who's the creator of all this? And it ultimately is going to lead us to God. God is our ultimate happiness, and again, it all ties together: knowledge and teleology and epistemology, right? And so here's one more. You look up in the sky, and maybe you've never seen anything this amazing, but we see stars in the sky. These are effects. These are effects of a creator, of a cause, right? So we got to start thinking differently. Every time, and it happens 1,001 times a day, where we see beautiful things, flowers and birds and the sky, and we've got to be saying to ourselves, wow, I'm curious as to the cause of these things. That leads us to contemplating God. All right, I'm going to close with one quote from Scripture because it very much ties into all this. St. Paul, in his letter to the Romans, said, "For what can be known about God is evident to them because God made it evident to them. Ever since the creation of the world, His invisible attributes of eternal power and divinity have been able to be understood and perceived by what He has made. He made the dogs, He made the babies, He made the sky, He made the planets, He made the photosynthesis process. As a result, they have no excuse. Who doesn't have an excuse? The atheists, the pagans. They got to believe in God, okay? So, yes, God's existence can be demonstrated, and that's what Thomas proves in Part 1, Question 2, Article 2 of the Summa. We're moving along. Thank you so much for watching this one. Comment below, like it, and come back tomorrow as we begin with the first proof for the existence of God. And that is a really, really awesome and interesting part of the Summa. Thanks for watching. God bless you.